is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
In the headlines, first in the United States, Nicolas Maduro pleads not guilty in his first appearance before a New York federal court, insisting he remains Venezuela's legitimate head of state. In Venezuela, the National Assembly swears in Delcy Rodriguez as acting president, days after U.S. forces detained Nicolas Maduro and First Lady Celia Flores. Meanwhile, at the United Nations, the UN warns a recent U.S. military operation could further destabilize Venezuela as millions endure a worsening humanitarian crisis. Turning to the Middle East, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel and U.S. President Donald Trump are united in blocking Iran's nuclear and missile ambitions. In France, a Paris court convicts 10 people over sustained cyberbullying targeting Brigitte Macron, the French president's wife. Back in the Philippines, lawyer Harry Roque Jr. files a Supreme Court memorandum for Paulo Duterte contesting the ICC-linked arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte. And in showbiz, Irish actress Jessie Buckley earns award season praise for her performance in Chloe Zhao's Hamnet opposite Paul Mescal. I'm Almar Forzuelo. Newsline World starts now. Maduro pleads not guilty in his first appearance before a New York federal court. Despite his detention in U.S. custody, Maduro maintains that he is Venezuela's legitimate head of state. The latest updates from Kai Villan.
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro appeared Monday at the Daniel Patrick Moynihan U.S. courthouse in Manhattan days after U.S. forces captured him during a military operation in Caracas. He entered a not guilty plea to multiple charges including narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine trafficking, and weapons-related offenses, marking a rare moment in which a sitting foreign leader is formally arraigned in a U.S. court. In a dramatic court setting, Maduro said, "I am innocent. I am still the president of my country." Maduro told the court his detention amounted to kidnapping, insisting the case is politically motivated. Translators assisted him as the U.S. judge confirmed his identity and outlined his legal rights. Maduro's wife, Celia Flores, appeared alongside him and also pleaded not guilty. Her lawyers raised concerns about injuries she allegedly sustained during the arrest, requesting a medical evaluation. Outside the courthouse, demonstrators both for and against Maduro gathered under heavy security, reflecting deep divisions over his leadership and the U.S. operation that brought him to New York. Back in Caracas, Vice President Delcy Rodriguez has been sworn in as acting president as the government moves to stabilize leadership amid an unprecedented legal crisis. The U.S. judge set the next court hearing for March as the case moves forward, with potential implications for international law, U.S.-Latin America relations, and the future of Venezuela's political leadership. Reporting for Newsline World, Kai Villan, SMNI News.
Venezuela's National Assembly has sworn in Delcy Rodriguez as acting president days after U.S. forces detained President Nicolas Maduro and First Lady Celia Flores. Jane Cudnita for the details.
Queda usted, ciudadana Delcy Eloína Rodríguez Gómez, investida en el cargo de presidenta encargada de la República Bolivariana de Venezuela. Felicitaciones.
Delcy Rodriguez took her oath inside the National Assembly in Caracas. Assembly President George Rodriguez administered the oath, formally transferring executive authority to the Vice President. The swearing-in follows U.S. airstrikes and the detention of Maduro and Flores early Saturday, an operation Caracas has condemned as an illegal act of aggression. Her appointment comes amid renewed warnings from U.S. President Donald Trump, who said Rodriguez would face severe consequences if she failed to comply with Washington's demands. In an interview with The Atlantic, Trump said Rodriguez could pay a very big price, probably bigger than Maduro, if she does not, in his words, do what's right. After Maduro's capture, Rodriguez condemned the U.S. military action as brutal aggression and demanded their leader's immediate release, saying Venezuela only has one president, Nicolas Maduro. In her speech as the acting president, Rodriguez called on Venezuelans across political, social, and economic lines to unite, saying the country faces what she described as a threat to its stability and peace.
Vengo con dolor por el sufrimiento que se le ha causado al pueblo venezolano luego de una agresión militar ilegítima contra nuestra patria. Vengo con dolor por el secuestro de 2 héroes que tenemos de rehenes en los Estados Unidos de Norteamérica, el presidente Nicolás Maduro y la primera combatiente, primera dama de este país, Cilia Flores.
The Venezuelan government insists Maduro remains the country's constitutional president, while tensions between Venezuela and the United States continue to escalate, with Maduro and his wife held in New York. This has been Jane Coniter, Global Citizen Correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
As millions of Venezuelans struggle amid a deepening humanitarian crisis, the United Nations is warning that the recent U.S. military operation could further destabilize the country and the region. Joy Tabanao will give us the updates.
The United Nations has raised serious concerns over the possible escalation of instability in Venezuela following a recent U.S. military operation, warning of its potential impact on the region and international law. Secretary General Antonio Guterres believes the January 3 military intervention failed to respect the rules of international law.
The Secretary General said he remains deeply concerned that the rules of international law have not been respected with regard to the military intervention on January 3rd. He highlighted that the Charter of the UN enshrines a prohibition of the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any member state.
Spokesperson Dujarric added that the Secretary General believes a wider and more destructive conflict can still be prevented, urging all Venezuelan stakeholders to engage in an inclusive and democratic dialogue to determine the country's future. He also called on Venezuela's neighbors and the broader international community to act in solidarity and adhere to principles that promote peaceful coexistence. Meanwhile, the UN warned that the humanitarian situation in Venezuela remains critical.
At the start of this year, some 7.9 million people in Venezuela were found to need urgent support. This is the equivalent of more than a quarter of the country's population.
However, Dujarric noted that funding remains a major challenge, with the humanitarian response plan for Venezuela still critically underfunded. He also stressed that regardless of Venezuela's international political situation, the UN remains firm in its stance that international law must be respected. The United Nations continues to call for dialogue, restraint, and humanitarian support as tensions surrounding Venezuela show no signs of easing. Joy Tabanao, your citizen correspondent reporting for Newsline World.
Thousands of supporters rallied in Caracas to back the opening of Venezuela's new National Assembly term and to demand the release of former President Nicolas Maduro days after his capture by U.S. forces. Jean Domingo has more.
Supporters marched through major city streets towards the National Assembly, waving flags and chanting slogans in support of their president Nicolas Maduro. The mobilization was called by the ruling party and coincided with the start of the 2026 to 2031 legislative term. The protests also unfolded as lawmakers swore in new assembly leaders. Jorge Rodriguez is now the assembly president for a 6th consecutive term, while his sister, Vice President Delcy Rodriguez, is now the acting president following a Supreme Court ruling issued over the weekend citing Maduro's forced absence.
Hoy tenemos un compromiso fundamental con la patria, que es la instalación de la Asamblea Nacional. La instalación de la Asamblea Nacional para el periodo 2026-2031. Y nosotros debemos hacer esta manifestación de apoyo a esa instancia importante de nuestro gobierno, de nuestro Estado.
Organizers say the rally ended at the Federal Legislative Palace and drew participation from grassroots groups communal councils and pro-government organizations aligned with the late former leader, Hugo Chavez.
Estamos resfriados y si es que dar la vida por el presidente para que nos lo retornen, lo haremos. Pero las calles son del pueblo y no del imperio, porque somos libres, somos soberanos y ningún imperio nos van a venir a gobernar, porque esta patria es nuestra, este petróleo es nuestro.
Maduro's son, Nicolas Maduro Guerra, who was re-elected as a lawmaker, also addressed the crowd urging national unity and rejecting what he described as attempts to destabilize the country.
Exigimos de vuelta a nuestro presidente Nicolás Maduro, porque aquí hay un pueblo rígido, un pueblo que defiende la soberanía y las leyes constitucionales y sobre todo la defensa de los derechos de seres humanos, que son los venezolanos y venezolanas de esta patria.
In total, 285 elected lawmakers are set to take office in the new assembly amid heightened tensions following recent U.S. military actions and the detention of Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores. Venezuelan authorities have condemned Maduro's capture as a violation of national sovereignty, while Washington has yet to announce a timeline or legal framework governing his detention. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Jean Domingo, SM9 News.
Up next, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel and U.S. President Donald Trump are united in blocking Iran's nuclear and missile ambitions. And a Paris court convicts 10 people over sustained cyberbullying targeting Brigitte Macron, the French president's wife. More news when Newsline World returns.
Pasasaan pa ang kalayaan kung ang mga alipin ngayon ay sila din naman mang-aalipin bukas.
Ibigin mo ang iyong bayan ng sunod kay bathala, sa iyong kapurihan at higit sa lahat sa iyong sarili.
Hindi natin mapapalaya ang ating mga sarili maliban kung sumunong tayo na nagkakaisa sa iisang hangarin.
Ang tunay na makabayan ay ang tumutupad ng pagpapabuti ng kanyang mga kapwa, gaano man kaaba ang kanyang katungkulan. Naway magsilbing paalala ang kanilang mga salita upang lalo nating mahalin at tapat na paglingkuran ang minamahal nating inang bayan.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says Israel and U.S. President Donald Trump are united in preventing Iran from rebuilding its nuclear and missile capabilities following talks held in late December. Carlo de la Peña tells us more.
Speaking at the Knesset in Jerusalem, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that he and U.S. President Donald Trump reached a firm understanding that Iran must not be allowed to renew its nuclear program or restore its ballistic missile industry.
ובאשר לאיראן, שמושכת בחוטי הטרור במזרח התיכון וגם מעבר למזרח התיכון, הנשיא טראמפ ואני הבענו עמדה נחרצת. לא ניתן לאיראן לשקם את תעשיית הטילים הבליסטיים שלה, ובוודאי שלא נאפשר לה לחדש את תוכנית הגרעין שפגענו בה קשות במהלך מבצע עם כלבי. העמדה המשותפת שלנו לגבי איראן עומדת בעינה. אפס יכולת העשרה, הוצאת כל האורניום המועשר, אל מחוץ לאיראן, ופיקוח קפדני ורציף על מתקני הגרעין.
Netanyahu said Israel's position includes the removal of all enriched uranium from Iran and sustained international monitoring of nuclear sites to prevent any future escalation. The Israeli leader also commented on ongoing unrest in Iran, voicing support for protesters calling for political change.
עכשיו, כשאנחנו דנו באיראן, ההתקוממות העממית, לא רק בטהרן, כבר במקומות אחרים, היא רק התחילה. ובינתיים היא התרחבה מאוד. אנחנו בישראל מזדהים עם המאבק של העם האיראני ועם השאיפה שלו לחירות וצדק. ייתכן מאוד שאנחנו עומדים ברגע מכריע, רגע שבו העם האיראני ייקח את גורלו בידו.
Netanyahu met Trump in Florida on December 29th with discussions covering the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire and Iran's regional influence. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carla de la Peña, SMNI News.
The Netherlands remains locked in winter with heavy snowfall bringing widespread travel disruption and forcing hundreds of flight cancellations as a national weather warning stays in effect. Heavy snowfall and freezing temperatures cripple air, rail and road transport for a fourth straight day. At Rotterdam Central Station, trains were brought to a standstill with commuters crowding platforms and electric boards flashing delays and no service notices. Bus services across the city were also suspended, leaving passengers stranded in sub-zero conditions. Air travel has been severely affected. Amsterdam's Schiphol Airport canceled close to 500 flights on Monday morning alone and briefly shut down arrivals. Airport officials say snow and ice have forced the cancellation of hundreds of flights each day since Friday. The Royal Netherlands Meteorological Institute has issued a code orange warning across multiple provinces, citing ongoing snowfall and hazardous travel conditions. Authorities are urging residents to avoid non-essential travel as winter conditions are expected to persist throughout the week. Guinea's Supreme Court has confirmed the sweeping election victory of junta leader in last month's presidential election, formally validating the results and bringing the country's four-year political transition to an end. Joy Tabanao has more.
Guinea's Supreme Court President Fode Bingura formally declared junta leader General Mamadi Doumbouya election victory during a press conference in the capital, Conakry. Bingura said Doumbouya won the December 28 presidential election in the first round after securing an absolute majority of the vote, with official results showing a landslide victory of 86.7%. Under Guinea's newly adopted constitution, Doumbouya will now serve a 7-year term as elected president, renewable once. The court's decision followed a review of results submitted by the General Directorate of Elections on December 30. Doumbouya, 41, ran as an independent candidate. Meanwhile, runner-up Piero Abada, who placed second with 6.59% of the vote, initially alleged the results had been manipulated but later withdrew the claim before the Supreme Court delivered its verdict. With prominent oppositions figures Celo Dalian Delgado and Sidia Torre remaining in exile, Doumbouya faced 9 other candidates in the vote. The election formally concludes Guinea's political transition, which began after Doumbouya led a military takeover that ousted former President Alpha Conde in September 2021. Joy Tabanao, your citizen correspondent reporting for Newsline World.
A Paris court has convicted 10 people of cyberbullying in connection with years-long online claims targeting Brigitte Macron, the wife of French President Emmanuel Macron. With ruling was handed down after French prosecutors accused the defendants of repeatedly spreading online suggestions that Brigitte Macron had been born a man, as well as insinuations that her relationship with President Macron was akin to pedophilia. French authorities said there is no truth to the claims. To recall, Brigitte Macron, whose maiden name was Trenu, first met Emmanuel Macron when she was a teacher at his secondary school. The couple married in 2007 when he was 29 and she was in her mid-50s. Sentences imposed by the court range from mandatory cyberbullying awareness training to suspend prison terms of up to 8 months. Several defendants argued during proceedings that their online posts were intended as humor or satire. One of those convicted, Bertrand Schouler, criticized the verdict, saying it undermined freedom of expression in France. He said the decision showed that people could now be convicted for expressing views deemed displeasing by authorities, adding that some subjects were no longer allowed to be discussed or analyzed.
En analyse. Donc je prends les faits et je les analyse. Je ne fais pas de blasphème, je ne dis pas de gros mots, je dis rien, j'analyse les choses. Et aujourd'hui, il y a des sujets qu'on n'a pas le droit d'analyser, qu'on n'a pas le droit de traiter, qu'on n'a pas le droit de suivre, auxquels on n'a pas le droit de Et donc ça veut dire que la liberté d'expression est réduite. Mais vous savez, depuis des années, on nous explique que pour avoir plus de sûreté, il faut accepter de réduire nos libertés.
The online theories targeting Brigitte Macron have circulated since Emmanuel Macron first took office in 2017. The presidential couple decided to pursue legal action after saying the volume and intensity of the online attacks have escalated in recent years. When we return, lawyer Harry Roque Jr. files a Supreme Court memorandum for Paulo Duterte contesting the ICC-linked arrest of former President Rodrigo Duterte. And in showbiz, Irish actress Jessie Buckley earns award season praise for her performance in Chloe Zhao's Hamnet opposite Paul Mescal. We'll be back after the break.
Sa panahon ng tag-ulan, hindi lang baha at ulan ang dapat bantayan, kundi pati na rin mga sakit na pwedeng makahawa. At dahil ngayon ay rainy season, nagbabala ang Department of Health laban sa tinatawag na wild diseases. 4 na klase ng sakit na karaniwang nakukuha ng tao tuwing maulan. Ito ang W o waterborne diseases, gaya ng pagdudumi o gastroenteritis. I o influenza-like illnesses, gaya ng sipon, ubo at lagnat. L o leptospirosis, na maaaring makuha mula sa ihi ng mga daga sa baha. At D o dengue, na dala ng mga lamok. Kapag baha, mas mabilis kumalat ang mikrobyo. Kaya't ugaliin ang paghuhugas ng kamay at agad maligo matapos lumusong sa baha. Ano ang dapat gawin para maiwasan ang wild diseases? Tumutok sa weather updates. Magsuot ng kapote at bota. Siguraduhing malinis ang iniinom na tubig. Agad kumonsulta sa health center kung may nararamdamang sintomas. Mainam din gawin ang 40 o ang taob, taktak, tuyo at takip para maiwasan ang dengue sa bahay at komunidad. Maglinis, magmasid, mag-ingat. Labanan ang wild diseases ngayong tag-ulan. Ang paalalang ito ay hatid sa inyo ng SMNI.
Isang pindot lang, pwede kang maka-jackpot. Mukhang masaya at easy money lang. Sa murang halaga, pwede ka na tumaya sa online gambling at e-casino apps. Mayroong sabong, slot machines, mahjong, poker at iba pa. Kailangan mo lang ng smartphone, e-wallet at internet. Pero ang aliw na ito, unti-unting nagiging bitag para sa mga Pilipino. Lalo na kung ang paborito mong artista o influencer ang mukha ng app. Mas madaling makaengganyo, diba? Parang safe naman kasi may kilalang mukha. Pero sa likod ng ngiti, sugal pa rin ang itinutulak. At syempre, mas madali ring itago ang pagkalulong sa bisyong ito. Walang pisikal na kasino o pasok sugalan, walang kaharap, walang accountability, kaya't mas lumalala ang adiksyon. Dagdag pa rito, maraming online gambling apps at walang regulasyon. Sa likod ng mga makukulay na interface at papremyo, nakatago ang problemang bumabalot ngayon sa bansa, ang pagkalulong ng maraming Pilipino sa online gambling. Pwede maglaro kahit saan, kahit kailan, kahit sino, bata man o matanda, pwedeng malulong. Ayon sa mga eksperto, ang pagkakalulong sa online gambling ay nagdudulot ng matinding stress at anxiety, pagkakabaon sa utang, pagkawasak ng pamilya, pagkawala ng tiwala sa sarili. At tulad ng ibang bisyo, may mga senyales ito tulad ng hindi makapagpigil kahit walang pera, palihim na tumataya, pagpapabaya sa trabaho, pamilya o sarili. Sa bawat taya, may mga taong tunay na kumikita, mga malalaking negosyante at investors na negosyo ang bisyo ng masa. Para sa kanila, perang pumapasok lang ito. Pero para sa ordinaryong Pilipino, kabuhayan at relasyon ang nauubos. At ang masakit, tila matagal itong nahayaan. Hindi ito naging prioridad ng mga nakaupo sa taas hanggang sa sobrang lumala at halos naapektuhan na ang buong komunidad. Ngayon, sa dami ng nalulung at sa laki ng pinsalang naidulot, sa kapalalong umugong ang mga panukalang batas para higpitan ng online gambling, gaya ng pagbabawal sa paggamit ng e-wallets para tumaya, pagtaas ng minimum bet, mas mahigpit na identity verification, pag-block ng mga illegal na gambling sites, at bawasan o ipagbawal ang mga ads na target ang kabataan. Maaari itong magmukhang laro lang, pero sa katotohanan, isa itong sugal sa kinabukasan. Ang kita na dapat sa mga pangunahing pangangailangan o ipon na uubos sa sugal. At sa mundo ng online gambling, mas madali kang matalo kaysa manalo. Huwag hayaang sugal ang magdikta sa iyong buhay. Isang paalala mula sa SMNI.
China and South Korea held two high-level meetings in just 2 months, underscoring the strong importance both countries place on their relationship amid rapid global changes and shared responsibilities for regional peace and development. Jean Domingo reports.
China and South Korea say their recent high-level exchanges reflect the strong importance both countries place on bilateral relations as leaders emphasize their role in regional peace and global development. President Xi Jinping stressed that amid rapid global changes seen in the century, both countries carry significant responsibilities.
短短2个月，我们2次见面，实现互访，这体现了双方对中韩关系的高度重视。当前世界百年变局加速演进，中韩在维护地区和平、促进全球发展方面负有重要责任，有广泛利益交集，应当坚定站在历史正确一边，做出正确战略选择。
She added that the two nations share extensive common interest, and cooperation is key to addressing challenges in the region and the world. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung also highlighted the strong historical and cultural ties between the two nations. He described China and South Korea as close neighbors with a shared history, including their resistance against Japanese militarism, and thanked China for preserving sites connected to Korea's independence movement. Lee noted that South Korea highly regards its ties with China and plans to use the upcoming leaders' meeting to reinforce their strategic partnership while maintaining respect for China's core interests and the One China stance. China and South Korea's recent meetings signal a commitment to stronger ties, strategic alignment, and joint efforts to foster stability and prosperity in East Asia and beyond. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Jean Domingo, SMNI News.
Human rights lawyer attorney Harry Roca Jr. filed on Monday a memorandum before the Supreme Court on behalf of Representative Paulo Duterte, summarizing the legal arguments in the consolidated cases against the illegal arrest and surrender of former President Rodrigo Roa Duterte to the International Criminal Court. Roque stressed that the cases remain justiciable despite the surrender of the former president to the ICC, insisting that the case is not moot and the High Court can still decide on the legality of the arrest. According to Paulo Duterte, through legal counsel, ICC no longer has jurisdiction following the Philippines' withdrawal from the Rome Statute in 2019, and enforcement of an ICC warrant violates Philippine sovereignty and the Constitution. It stressed that the Philippine courts have primary and exclusive jurisdiction over crimes allegedly committed within Philippine territory. He also emphasized that the executive cannot unilaterally waive jurisdiction or surrender a Filipino citizen without valid treaty or legislative authority. The memorandum concluded that the court's ruling will have implications beyond the present case. To note, the memorandum was filed following the Supreme Court's resolution directing the parties to submit their respective memoranda, which include petitions for habeas corpus, certiorari, and prohibition. A business group believes that simply jailing those involved in corruption regarding anomalous flood control projects is not enough to fully solve the country's problems. Sheena Torno tells us why.
The Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or PCCI, finds President Bongbong Marcos' actions lacking regarding the rampant corruption in the country, particularly issues related to flood control projects. The administration previously stated last year that by the end of 2025, the big fish or politicians involved in these anomalous projects would be imprisoned, but this has not happened. Because of this, the business group is calling for the strengthening of anti-corruption reforms and the promotion of digital transformation. According to PCCI President Ferdinand Perry Ferrer, simple prosecution and imprisonment of those involved in corruption are insufficient. He emphasizes that deep reforms in policies and processes are necessary, particularly in budgeting, to permanently prevent the abuse of power and the theft of public funds. The PCCI further asserts that the failure to address corruption has a massive impact on business and the economy. Billions of pesos are reportedly lost to corruption, funds that could have been used to strengthen digital connectivity and infrastructure to help make the country more attractive to investors. It can be recalled that only the controversial contractor Sara Diskaya, owner of St. Gerald Construction Company, is currently imprisoned for alleged anomalies. Aside from her, several officials from the Department of Public Works and Highways, or DPWH, are involved due to ghost and substandard projects. However, the government has seemingly failed to imprison the politicians named during last year's hearings regarding the flood control anomaly. For God and for my beloved Philippines, this has been Sheena Torno, SMNI News.
Following the recent clash between government troops and New People's Army, or NPA, rebels in Occidental Mindoro, the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-ELCAC, confirmed that the fatality was not merely a student but an active member of the rebel group. This report. The National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, or NTF-ELCAC, extended its condolences to the parents and family of Jerlyn Rose Doidora, who was killed during an encounter between government forces and communist terrorist group New People's Army, or NPA, in Abra de Ilog, Occidental Mindoro on January 1, 2026. Based on social media posts by Kabataan Party List, Jerlyn Rose Doidora was identified as a member and part of the General Secretariat of the organization and a student of the Pamantasan ng Lungsod ng Maynila. Many netizens criticized and questioned why a student was in the mountains during the holiday season, especially while a ceasefire had been declared by the rebel group. In response, NTF-ELCAC clarified that Doidora was not merely a student. According to information gathered by authorities on the ground, Jerlyn had already joined the New People's Army. According to the task force, the incident and the immediate defense mounted by so-called legal fronts of the CPP, NPA, NDF following Doidora's death only reinforced claims of illegal recruitment by leftist groups, with young people as the primary victims. NTF-ELCAC emphasized that its priority is now the safety and security of other youths and students previously reported to have joined the rebel movement. The task force said it is also their mission to safely return them to their families. Finally, the Liga ng mga Barangay of Abra de Olog strongly condemned the violence, harassment and extortion allegedly committed by the CPP, NPA, NDF in their area while calling for peace. The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority or MMDA wants to be part of the early planning stages for flood control and other infrastructure projects in Metro Manila to ensure these initiatives are more effective against flooding and traffic. Prince Tripoli reports.
The Metropolitan Manila Development Authority or MMDA has expressed its desire to take a proactive role in planning flood control and other infrastructure projects within Metro Manila. According to MMDA Chairman Romando Artes, they are already coordinating with the Department of Public Works and Highways or DPWH, specifically with Secretary Vince Dizon regarding deeper coordination on these projects.
Dahil alam niyo naman ang DPWH ang gumagawa ng mga infrastructure projects insofar as flood control is concerned, tine-turn over na lang yan sa atin pag nagawa na. Pero this time, base sa aming discussion si GM Torre, gusto namin sana this time, sa simula pa, ma-involve na kami sa planning, sa execution at implementation.
Artes is working alongside with newly appointed MMDA General Manager Nicolas Torre III, who took his oath of office last week.
Mamaya magre-report si General Torre na nag-inspect na sila ng EDSA Rehab. He made sure na lahat na napagkasundoan namin insofar as EDSA Rehab, particularly yung pagkiklear ng lugar, ay nasusunod.
Currently, traffic flow on EDSA remains slow due to 24-hour rehabilitation work, where 1 to 2 lanes are closed. However, travel has become faster and more organized on the EDSA busway after certain inner lanes of the road were repaired. Repairs on other parts of EDSA will continue from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. starting this Monday. For God in my beloved country, the Philippines, this has been Prince Tripoli, SMN News.
Irish actress Jessie Buckley is making waves this award season, earning critical acclaim for her performance in Chloe Zhao's Hamnet opposite Paul Mescal. Meanwhile, Filipina singer Gwen Dorado is making history in South Korea, becoming the only foreign contestant to reach the top 4 of the hit talent show Sing Again 4. Jane Cunita has all the entertainment news.
Irish actress Jessie Buckley continues to dominate award season, earning praise for her latest performance in Chloe Zhao's Hamnet. Buckley's portrayal in the film has captivated critics and audiences alike, with many highlighting her powerful performance opposite Paul Mescal. The rising star shows no signs of slowing down, as anticipation builds around her potential nominations and accolades this award season. With critical acclaim mounting and awards buzz growing, Jessie Buckley is fast becoming one of Hollywood's most talked about talents of the year. A Filipino singer is making waves in South Korea, becoming the only foreign contestant to reach the top 4 in the popular talent show Sing Again 4. Gwen Dorado, 21, wowed judges and audiences alike with her performances, securing a spot among the Korean finalists Lee Oh-uk, Kim Jae-min, and Slo Lee. Her remarkable journey on the show has drawn attention not only in South Korea but also from fans back in the Philippines, highlighting her talent on an international stage. As the competition heads to its final stages, Dorado continues to inspire viewers, showing that determination and talent can make history, even far from home. And that's it for today's entertainment news. This has been Jane Cunita, Global Citizen Correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Color, rhythm, and tradition took center stage in Hong Kong as the city rang in 2026 with its annual Dragon and Lion Festival, drawing performers from around the world. The celebration saw nearly 140 lion and dragon dance troupes flood the streets over the first 2 days of the new year, making both the Hong Kong Dragon and Lion Festival and the 8th World Dragon and Lion Day. On New Year's Day, the troops joined a parade along the Tsim Sha Tsui waterfront, performing alongside more than 1,500 artists from over 10 countries in a vibrant display of cultural exchange. This year's theme, International Gathering of Dragon and Lion Elites, was highlighted by a grand parade featuring 130 troops along the harbor front. The waterfront and the Hong Kong Cultural Center Piazza transformed into a lively hub of traditional performance with powerful drumming and elaborate choreography, captivating large crowds. The celebrations peaked with the International Lion Dance Competition, where more than 40 elite teams demonstrated world-class skill in a spirited contest. Lion and dragon dances remain enduring symbols of good fortune, strength, and the warding off of evil, making them fitting centerpiece for the new year. In sports, Abdul Fattah struck a dramatic 94th minute of volley as Leicester City grabbed a crucial 2-1 championship win over West Bromwich Albion, as a tense night marked by fan protests and empty seats at the King Power Stadium, while Devin Booker buried a decisive three-pointer in the final moment as the Phoenix Suns staged a rally to beat NBA champions Oklahoma City. The score 108-105, averaging a previous humbling defeat. Here's Carlo De La Peña for the report.
A mix of freezing conditions and a fan boycott protesting the club's ownership led to large sections of the 32,000 capacity stadium sitting empty for Leicester's first home match of 2026. Those in attendance were given an early lift when Jordan Ayew opened the scoring, combining neatly with Jordan James inside the box before finishing from close range for his 5th goal of the season. West Brom responded before halftime as Carlin Grant leveled the contest, bursting forward on a counter-attack and curling a composed effort into the bottom corner. The Baggies dominated much of the second half, with Isaac Price seeing a deflected effort hit the post and Leicester goalkeeper Jakub Stolarczyk producing a string of outstanding saves to keep his side level. Against the run of play, Leicester snatched the winner deep into stoppage time. Steffi Mabididi delivered a precise cross and Fattah met it with a thunderous 15-yard volley to spark celebrations among the home support. Despite the victory, pressure remains on Fox's manager Marty Cifuentes after a labored performance, while West Brom boss Ryan Mason faced further scrutiny as his side suffered a 10th straight away defeat and slipped to 6 losses in 8 matches. The result leaves West Brom 6 points and 6 places behind Leicester in the table, while the silence of absent supporters served as a stark reminder of the ongoing unrest surrounding the Foxes' ownership and direction. Meanwhile, the Suns clawed back from an 18-point hole to atone for their worst loss as a franchise, a 138-89 drubbing by the Thunder in last month's NBA Cup quarterfinals. Booker totaled 24 points and 9 assists and delivered the winning shot after Oklahoma City had erased a late deficit to draw level. Dillon Brooks chipped in 22 points for Phoenix and drilled a key three-pointer over reigning MVP Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with 36 seconds remaining to push the Suns ahead 105-101. The Thunder answered to make it 105-105 with 8.2 seconds left, but Booker had the final say, calmly knocking down the game winner at the buzzer. Jordan Goodwin sparked Phoenix off the bench with a career-best 26 points as the Suns halted Oklahoma City's 4-game winning run. Gilgeous-Alexander led the Thunder with 25 points and Jalen Williams added 23, though Oklahoma City still owns the NBA's best record at 36. In other action, Detroit tightened its hold on the Eastern Conference led by defeating Cleveland 114-110. Cade Cunningham scored 27 for the Pistons, with Dennis Jenkins contributing 25 off the bench. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carla De La Peña bringing you the latest sports news.
And before we end, may you be inspired with the words of the Sun. Start strong, finish strong. Quitting is not an option. And that's all for this edition of Newsline World. For God and my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Almar Forzuelo. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.